Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome in, everybody. Ready for another deep dive.
Always. Let's jump right in.
Today we're looking into a case from the Hollow Echo of Elmsworth.
Yeah, a pretty unsettling case.
This is one of those stories that reminds you that things aren't always what they seem.
Especially in those charming small towns.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Elmsworth.
Right, exactly. You know, Elmsworth is this picturesque little town nestled in the Appalachians, about 2,000 people. Everyone knows everyone.
I bet they have like a yearly pie contest or something.
Actually, they have this big annual harvest festival. It's a huge tourist attraction.
Oh wow, that sounds lovely.
It is, yeah. Or at least it was until, well, until this whole case really shook things up. It kind of exposed this dark undercurrent that had been lurking beneath the surface for years.
So not so apple pie and friendly neighbors after all.
Not quite.
Well, let's get into it. Who's our victim this time?
Her name is Jenna Mallory. She was 16, bright, curious, and kind of a budding historian in her own right. She was working on this school project about Elmsworth folklore.
Folklore, huh? Like local ghost stories and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. She was interviewing townsfolk, digging through archives, all that. But here's the thing. She stumbled upon this chilling detail, an unsolved disappearance from decades ago. And guess what?
It had something to do with her.
Exactly. It bore an eerie resemblance to her own eventual fate.
Okay, that's creepy. I'm already hooked.
It gets even creepier.
So let's set the scene. It's October 18th. Harvest Festival.
Right the night she disappeared, picture this. Bonfires, music, the smell of autumn in the air. Jenna's there with friends, having a good time.
Classic fall festival stuff.
Exactly. But then she slips away.
Oh no. This is where things go south.
Yep. She tells her friends she's meeting this guy, Eli Turner, a local artist who lived on the outskirts of town.
Okay, Eli Turner. Already sounds suspicious. What's his deal?
He was, well, kind of an eccentric character, known for his fascination with the darker side of Elmsworth's history and folklore. His art often explored, those themes of death, ritual, hidden secrets, all that.
Sounds like my kind of artist. But probably not someone you want your teenage daughter hanging out with.
Right, and that's what makes this whole thing even more suspicious. Why would Jenna seek him out?
Unless she was getting close to something that someone wanted to keep hidden.
Exactly. And that's what makes this case so fascinating. It's not just about solving a murder. It's about uncovering a town's secrets. So Jenna disappears. Hours turn into days, and hope starts to dwindle.
And eventually they find her?
They do, 11 days later, in the woods, buried in an unmarked grave.
Oh my God.
And here's the detail that really gets me. Her body was wrapped in a cloak made of pages from an old book.
A book? What kind of book?
It was filled with arcane symbols, references to ancient rituals, stories from Elmsworth's past.
It's like something straight out of one of Jenna's folklore projects.
Right. It's almost too perfect. It's like whoever killed her wanted to send a message, to connect her death to the town's history, to those very legends she was investigating.
Okay, so we've got a creepy murder, a mysterious cloak, and a town full of secrets.
And a whole bunch of suspects.
Suspects? Like who?
Well, for starters, there's Eli Turner, the artist Jenna met with the night she disappeared. Remember, he was obsessed with the darker side of Elmsworth's history.
Right, and he's the last one to see her alive, supposedly.
Exactly. Plus, get this, forensic analysis revealed that some of the pages used to make that cloak, they came from a rare book on Elmsworth's history. And guess who it was last seen with?
Eli Turner.
Bingo!
Okay, so he's suspect number one.
He is definitely a person of interest, but we have to consider all the angles. Remember, Jenna's own father, Michael Mallory, was worried about her research. They had a strained relationship.
Oh, so maybe he was trying to protect her in his own twisted way.
It's possible. Sometimes family secrets can be just as dangerous as any other kind.
Okay, so we've got the eccentric artist, the worried father. Who else is on our list?
Well, there's Maggie Sinclair, the town librarian.
A librarian?
Yeah.
What would she have to do with any of this?
She was actually the one who was helping Jenna with her research, giving her access to all the historical records and local legends.
So maybe she knew something she didn't want Jenna to find out.
It's a possibility. Librarians are the gatekeepers of knowledge, after all. And sometimes, knowledge can be dangerous.
This just keeps getting more and more intriguing.
Oh, and we're not done yet. There's also Tommy Eldridge, a local historian who was pretty vocal about his opposition to Jenna's research.
A historian? Really? What would he have against a high school project?
He was worried it would tarnish the town's reputation. He saw Elmsworth as this pristine, idyllic place, and he didn't want Jenna digging up the past.
So he was trying to protect the town's image, even if it meant silencing Jenna.
It's definitely a possibility. And then there's the town council.
Oh, the town council. Now we're getting into some real power players.
Exactly. They had a lot to lose if Jenna's research went public. Tourism, property values, the whole 9 yards.
So they might have been involved in a cover-up.
It wouldn't be the first time a small town tried to bury its secrets.
This is turning into a real whodunit. We've got a cast of characters with secrets, a web of connections, and a town grappling with its own dark past.
And we're just getting started. Welcome back to our deep dive into the hollow echo of Elmsworth.
So last time, we left off with a town full of suspects and a young girl who was murdered for getting too close to the truth.
And a pretty creepy murder weapon, I might add. A cloak made of pages from an old book filled with arcane symbols and local legends.
Yeah, that was a chilling detail.
Mm.
But I'm still trying to wrap my head around all the suspects. Let's start with Eli Turner, the artist. What more do we know about him?
Well, he was known for his dark and kind of macabre artwork. His studio was out in the woods, away from the town. A lot of people considered him a recluse, a bit of an oddball.
But Jenna sought him out for her research, right?
Yeah, she did. It seems like she believed he had some insights into the darker side of Elmsworth's history, the stuff that wasn't in the official records.
So maybe he knew something about those old disappearances, the ones Jenna was investigating for her project.
It's possible. And remember, some of the pages from that cloak came from a rare book that was last seen in Eli's possession.
Right. That's a pretty big connection. But did he have a motive?
Well, we don't know for sure, but it's possible he felt threatened by Jenna's research. Maybe he was afraid she'd expose something he'd rather keep hidden.
Or maybe he was just a creepy dude who got caught up in something way over his head.
It's hard to say at this point. But let's move on to Jenna's father, Michael Mallory. Remember, they had a strained relationship.
Yeah, and he wasn't exactly thrilled about her digging into the town's past.
Right. He even warned her to be careful, said she was stirring up trouble.
So maybe he tried to stop her to protect her in his own misguided way.
That's one theory. But there's also the possibility that he had something to hide himself. Maybe Jenna was getting too close to a family secret, something that could have ruined his reputation.
Oh, family drama always adds another layer of complexity to these cases. Okay, so we've got the eccentric artist, the worried father, and then there's the librarian, Maggie Sinclair. What was her deal?
Maggie was a respected figure in Elmsworth, the keeper of the town's history, so to speak. She was the one who gave Jenna access to the library's archives, helped her with her research.
So maybe she knew more than she was letting on. Maybe she tried to steer Jenna away from certain topics, certain secrets that she didn't want exposed.
It's possible. Maybe she felt a responsibility to protect the town's image, even if it meant keeping the truth buried.
So she was complicit, in a way. Wow, this just keeps getting deeper and deeper. What about the historian, Tommy Eldridge? He was pretty vocal about his opposition to Jenna's project.
Oh yeah, he was definitely not a fan of her research. He thought it was disrespectful, even dangerous, to dredge up the past.
But to murder her, that seems extreme.
I know, right? But remember, he was deeply invested in preserving the town's image. He saw Jenna's project as a threat to that image.
So maybe he thought he was doing the town a favor by silencing her.
It's a twisted kind of logic, but it's not unheard of in cases like this. People can do terrible things when they believe they're protecting something bigger than themselves.
Like their hometown, for example. Okay, so we've got the artist, the father, the librarian, the historian, and let's not forget the town council. They had a lot to lose if Jenna's research went public.
Oh yeah, they were definitely concerned about the potential impact on tourism and property values. Elmsworth's economy depended on its reputation as a quaint, charming, and above all, safe place to visit.
A murder mystery, especially one involving ancient rituals and teenage girls, doesn't exactly fit that image.
Nope, not at all. So it's not unreasonable to suspect that they might have been involved in a cover-up, either directly or indirectly.
Maybe they pressured the other suspects to keep quiet, or maybe they even orchestrated the whole thing.
We don't have any concrete evidence to support that theory, but it's definitely something to keep in mind as we dig deeper into this case.
Okay, so we've got a whole town full of suspects, each with their own secrets and motives. This is like a real-life game of Clue.
It is, isn't it? And the question is, who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to kill Jenna Mallory? All right, so we're back.
And the truth is out there, somewhere in Elmsworth.
It is, yeah, somewhere. We've got our suspects, we've got their motives, but what we really need is that piece of evidence that ties it all together, like in those old detective movies, the smoking gun.
And I think I remember reading something about, wasn't there DNA evidence found at the scene?
Ah, you're right. I'd almost forgotten about that. See, that's what's so interesting about these deep dives. Sometimes you get so caught up in the psychological aspects, the motives, that you overlook the hard evidence.
Well, let's not overlook it. What's the deal with the DNA?
Okay, so remember how Jenna's body was found?
Wrapped in that creepy cloak made of book pages.
Yeah. Well, the police also found traces of blood near her burial site.
Blood that wasn't hers.
Exactly. They ran the DNA, and it came back as a match to Tommy Eldridge.
The historian. The guy who was so against Jenna's research.
The one and only.
Wow. I kind of saw him as a grumpy old guy set in his ways, but a murderer. I mean, was he really willing to kill to protect the town's reputation?
It seems so, yeah. Remember, he saw Jenna's project as a direct attack on everything he believed in. He dedicated his life to preserving Elmsworth's history the way he wanted it to be remembered.
So he decided to rewrite history, literally, by eliminating Jenna.
In a way, yeah. I guess that's one way to put it. So Detective Thorne brings Tommy in for questioning.
Yeah.
Dinah.
What happens? Does he confess?
He does eventually, but his story is, let's just say it's a little messy.
Messy how?
Well, he admits to confronting Jenna in the woods that night, but he claims he didn't mean to kill her, says they struggled, she fell, hit her head, an accident.
An accident? Come on, that sounds pretty flimsy, especially with the DNA evidence linking him to the scene.
I know, right? Detective Thorne wasn't buying it either. He pointed out that the physical evidence, like the defensive wounds on Jenna's body, didn't match up with Tommy's story.
So what was Tommy's real motive?
Thorne believed it was a combination of things. Fear, obsession, a need for control. Tommy was terrified of what Jenna might uncover, how her research would tarnish the town's image. He couldn't let that happen, not after all the years he spent protecting Elmsworth's reputation.
It's like he saw himself as the guardian of the town's history, and Jenna was the threat.
Exactly. And sadly, he took things way too far. So, Tommy Eldridge is arrested and charged with Jenna Mallory's murder.
Case closed?
Well, yes and no. They caught the killer, but there are still a lot of unanswered questions swirling around Elmsworth. Remember those other unsolved disappearances that Claire Barnett uncovered? And the town council's suspicious behavior throughout the investigation.
Yeah, it always felt like there was something more going on, something they were trying to hide.
Right. And even though Tommy confessed, we don't know for sure if he was acting alone or if someone else was pulling the strings. Maybe he was protecting someone, or maybe he was even coerced into taking the fall.
So even with an arrest, the hollow echo of Elmsworth still lingers.
It does, yeah. And I think that's what makes this case so unsettling. It's a reminder that sometimes, even when justice is served, the truth can remain elusive.
And that the past has a way of haunting us, no matter how hard we try to bury it.
That's a good way to put it. This case really shows how a single event can shake a community to its core, expose those fault lines that were always there just beneath the surface. It makes you wonder what secrets are lurking in our own towns, in the places we think we know so well.
That is a thought, isn't it? I guess the takeaway here is to always be curious, to ask questions, and to never take anything for granted, especially in those charming little towns with their annual pie contests and harvest festivals.
Exactly. You never know what darkness might be lurking beneath the surface.
Well, that's our deep dive into the hollow echo of Elmsworth.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.